The most underrated NBA players of all time. Number 10. Jerry West. Jerry West is one of basketball's most polarizing figures in its long history. Did you know that the NBA logo is actually a silhouette of West himself? Logo, as he was sometimes called for that reason, was an all-star in all 14 seasons he played with the Lakers. During that time, he was selected All-NBA on 12 occasions and All-Defense on 5 more. He is still fourth among retired players with his 27 points per game career scoring average. So why was he so underrated? Perhaps it was the era he played in, or maybe it was that he won only one title. Whatever the reason, Jerry West deserves more credit than this. Number 9. Dennis Rodman. Some might argue with the inclusion of the worm, but really, there should be no argument necessary. When you win back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards in perhaps the toughest era in all of NBA history and have to wait to hear your name inducted by the Hall, you are obviously underrated. It doesn't hurt that Dennis was the most versatile defender ever and formed a formidable trio with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen while in Chicago. He won 5 titles in 15 seasons and was a true winner. Number 8. Alex English. Who was the top scorer in the 1980s? Was it Magic Johnson or Larry Bird? Was it Adrian Dantley or Dominique Wilkins? Nope, that feat belonged to a fellow by the name of Alex English. During that decade, English averaged 21, 24, 25, 28, 26, 28, 30, 29, 25 and 27 points per game in each season. He was a product of Doug Moe's high-flying offense that featured English, Fat Lever and David Thompson, for the first part of the decade. English was the unquestioned leader of the crew, and he rattled off 8 consecutive All-Star appearances starting in 1982 with the team. He was the first player in NBA history to score more than 2,500 points in 8 straight campaigns. For his efforts, they retired his widely popular number 2 jersey. Poor English was so underrated. And it's even sadder when you consider he was 6th on the NBA's all-time scoring list at the time of his retirement. Number 7. Nate Thurmond. Nate the Great Thurmond was one of the NBA's best centers during the era of Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. He holds many distinctions in the NBA's history. He was the first player to ever record a quadruple-double, a feat he accomplished on October 18, 1974 against the Chicago Bulls. During the game, he totaled 22 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists and 12 blocks. Another record he holds is the most rebounds in a quarter with an astounding 18. He was also a ferocious defender, a guy who made 5 all-defensive teams during his career as well as 8 All-Star games. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's underrated. Number 6. Fat Lever. Fat Lever is the most underrated point guard in NBA history. The 6 feet 3 inches Lever routinely led the Denver Nuggets in assists and rebounds during the 1980s. He was a triple-double waiting to happen, a guy who could defend and swipe balls unlike many other top point guards of the decade. His best season occurred during the 1988-89 campaign, when he averaged 19.8 points, 9.3 rebounds and 7.9 assists. This was also the year that he accumulated 9 steals, in 1 quarter. Lever should be considered a top 5 Nugget, but just about no one outside of the Rockies gives the guy any respect. Number 5. Bernard King. Bernard King is easily one of the most underrated players in the NBA's long history. He averaged 22.5 points, try naming 5 active players who've done that, and 6 rebounds per game and was the most explosive offensive player of, dare I say it, the 1980s for a short time. His most dominant days came as a Knick, where he averaged better than 28 points on 3 separate occasions. All in all, he averaged better than 20 points in 9 separate seasons, playing as a member of 4 different teams. Basically, no defender could contain the 6 feet 7 inches King during his heyday. And for reasons unbeknownst to me, he is not in the Hall of Fame. Number 4. Sam Jones. Sam Jones, simply put, is the ultimate champion. His 10th championship rings fall second to only the greatest champion in the history of professional sports, Bill Russell. Jones, like Russell, was a tremendous teammate who would rather work with his team than work individually. He was as quick as they came in the 70s, and he hit big shots whenever the time was right for the Celtics. He is recognized as one of the NBA's greatest 50 players ever, but do fans treat him as such nowadays? I wouldn't even say it's a close call. This man deserves more respect. Number 3. Scottie Pippen. Everybody knows who Scottie Pippen is and what defines him: championships. They can easily look up the numbers, which tell part of the story. He averaged 16.1 points, 6.4 rebounds, 5.2 assists and an astounding 2 steals throughout the course of his 17-year career. What casual basketball fans might not know is that he is widely considered one of the 2 or 3 best defensive forwards to ever play the game, along with Dennis Rodman, his teammate from 1995-98 with the Chicago Bulls. You know you're on a great team when Michael Jordan is easily the 3rd best defensive player. He was so clutch with his defense come crunch time, most notably when he was able to contain the great Magic Johnson in the 1991 NBA Finals. People tend to point to how many championships Scottie won without Michael: 0. What they don't realize is that Michael never won a title without Scottie. He is the ultimate underrated player. Number 2. Dominique Wilkins. The Human highlight film was a sight to see and perhaps the best in-game dunker the world has ever seen. He won the dunk contest in 1985 and then again 5 seasons later and scared just about everyone off when he penetrated in the lane in games. Dominique Wilkins was a tremendous offensive player, a guy who averaged 25 points per game over the course of his career, a number that certainly places him among the best. He once hit 23 of 23 free throws in a single game, an NBA record. He also is one of 6 players to average better than 25 points per game in 10 consecutive seasons. The other 5? Jerry West, Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson. That's some pretty crazy company to be in. It's a shame his name sticks out from the rest for the wrong reasons. Sadly, Knicks Hawk teams could never go very far in the postseason, and it is for that reason that he is so overlooked by junkies and cliques alike. One of the biggest travesties in the game of basketball is Wilkins' admission into the NBA's 50th anniversary team. There are at least 20 guys on the guy that Nick is superior to. Number 1. Dennis Johnson. While Larry Bird and Kevin McHale were dominant in their respective own ways during the 1980s, Dennis Johnson was the glue that kept everything stable in Boston. He could guard anyone at any time, and he could score and chip in his best effort at both sides of the floor at any time. In his career, he averaged 14.1 points, 5 assists and nearly 4 boards per game. Additionally, Johnson was as clutch as anyone, coming up big in decisive moment after decisive moment. His smothering defense was a main catalyst factoring into DJ and the C's winning the 1979 title. How many casual NBA fans know who DJ is just 20 years after his retirement? Johnson, may he rest in peace, is the NBA's most underrated player ever because of his willingness to give up individual glory for the better of the team. He complemented what Bird and McHale lacked and took a back seat to the 2 in the process. This ultimately decided his fate as the most underrated player in the league's history.